My wife's family reunion in Martha's Vineyard. They forgot to book accommodations for me. Oops, everything's full. 67 family members in luxury rentals. I made one call. Next day, when a helicopter landed and picked up just me. Police arrived at her house. Nathan Forbes had learned early in life that some people measured worth in dollar signs, while others measured it in character. The Greer family had always been firmly in the first camp, and Nathan had been fighting an uphill battle for respect since the day he married their daughter, Molly, 15 years ago. He stood in the kitchen of their suburban Boston home, watching Molly hang up the phone with her mother. The forced smile on her face told him everything he needed to know before she even spoke. "So, the reunion's confirmed," Molly said, setting her phone on the counter with deliberate care. "Last week of July, Martha's Vineyard moms rented out 3 entire estates." Nathan raised an eyebrow. 3 estates? How many people are we talking about? 67, including us. Molly wouldn't meet his eyes. "It's the whole extended family. Cousins, second cousins, everyone." Nathan had met Molly during his graduate program at MIT back when he was burning through his doctoral dissertation on adaptive systems theory while working 3 jobs to pay for it. She'd been different then, or maybe he'd been too in love to see the warning signs. Her family came from old Northeastern money, the kind that bought summer homes in the Berkers and winter condos in Palm Beach. They tolerated Nathan at first. Certain Molly would eventually come to her senses and marry someone from their circle. That was before Nathan had turned down lucrative corporate offers to build something of his own. Before the lean years, before they had Taylor, 14-year-old Taylor walked into the kitchen, backpack slung over one shoulder, his face buried in a book about marine biology. The kid had Nathan's analytical mind and Molly's gentle nature, the best of both of them. He was quiet, thoughtful, the kind of teenager who preferred titles to parties. "Hey buddy," Nathan said. "Your mom's got news about the family trip." Taylor looked up and Nathan caught the flicker of anxiety in his son's eyes. The kid had learned to dread Greer family gatherings. There were always comments, subtle digs about Nathan's work, pointed questions about their modest lifestyle, comparisons to cousins whose parents bought them expensive cars and designer clothes. "It's going to be amazing," Molly said with forced enthusiasm. "Martha's Vineyard for a whole week. You'll love it, Taylor. Beach, sailing, maybe some whale watching." Taylor nodded. But Nathan saw his grip tighten on his book. That night, after Taylor had gone to bed, Nathan found Molly staring out the bedroom window. "Your mother gave you the speech, didn't she?" Nathan asked. Molly sighed. "She just thinks we should make more of an effort socially." Translation: "I should wear nicer clothes and pretend I care about yacht clubs." "Nathan, I'm not criticizing you, mole." He came up behind her, resting his hands on her shoulders. "I know this is hard for you." What Nathan didn't say was that he'd noticed the pattern over the years. Every family gathering became an exercise in subtle humiliation. Molly's brother, Heath, had made a fortune in finance and never let Nathan forget it. Her sister, Kendra, had married a venture capitalist. Even her cousins seemed to operate on a different economic plane, one where summer homes and luxury cars were baseline expectations. Nathan's own parents had passed away when he was in college, a car accident that left him orphaned and alone. He'd fought his way through MIT on scholarships and determination, built his consulting firm from nothing. But the Greers measured success in inheritance and connections, not grit and innovation. 2 weeks before the trip, the first red flag appeared. Molly was on the phone with her mother, voice tight with barely controlled frustration. "What do you mean the accommodations are set? I thought you said we'd discuss." "Yes, but Mom. Nathan and I can cover our own." "I understand," but she pressed her fingers to her temple. "Fine. Okay, I'll let him know." She hung up and looked at Nathan with apologetic eyes. "They've already assigned all the rooms and we're in the guest cottage at the Ashworth estate. It's nice, Nathan. Really nice, but separate from everyone else. It's just logistics. The main houses are for the couples with multiple children, the larger families." Nathan had expected this. The Greers had been finding ways to other them for years, but he kept his voice neutral. "Whatever works, mole." What Nathan didn't share was the email he'd received 2 days later from Heath Greer, Molly's older brother. It was addressed to the entire family group, a detailed itinerary for the reunion. Nathan scanned through pages of planned activities: golf at an exclusive club, dinner at restaurants that required reservations months in advance, a private yacht excursion, a catered beachside gala. At the bottom, in what looked like an afterthought, was a note: "Accommodations confirmed for all family members. See attached spreadsheet." Nathan opened the spreadsheet. 67 names, each with assigned lodging. He found his own name, Molly's, and then Taylor's name wasn't there. He read through it twice, certain he'd missed it. But no, every family member was listed except his son. Nathan walked to Molly's home office where she was reviewing lesson plans for the fall semester. She taught art history at a local college, a job her family considered a hobby despite her PhD. "Mole, did you see Heath's email?" She looked up, distracted. "The itinerary? Yeah, it's ambitious. I told Mom we might skip some of the activities. Look at the accommodations list." She pulled it up on her laptop and Nathan watched her face change as she scrolled through. "This can't be right. Taylor's not. This is a mistake. I'll call Mom right now." But Nathan had already seen enough mistakes over the years to recognize a pattern. "Wait, let me guess what she'll say." Molly's call to Gail Greer lasted 15 minutes. Nathan listened from the doorway, his jaw tightening with each excuse he heard Molly repeat. "She says the booking was done months ago. The rental properties have maximum occupancy limits. They tried to find additional space, but everything's booked. She says, we can figure out local hotels in Martha's Vineyard in peak summer season." Nathan's voice was cold. "Mole, they're housing 66 people in luxury estates, and they're telling us our son, their grandson, needs to find a hotel. She says it was an oversight. It's always an oversight with them." Nathan turned away before Molly could see the anger in his eyes. "Tell her we'll handle it." Over the next week, Molly made phone calls. Every hotel, every bed and breakfast, every vacation rental within a 20-mile radius of Martha's Vineyard was booked solid. She expanded the search to the mainland, looking at places in Falmouth and Woods Hole, but nothing suitable was available. Nathan watched his wife grow increasingly desperate, making call after call while her family sent group texts about excursion reservations and dinner plans. Not one of them acknowledged the problem they'd created. It was Taylor who finally broke Nathan's resolve. The night before they were supposed to leave, Nathan found his son sitting on his bed, carefully folding clothes into a small duffel bag. The larger suitcase sat empty in the corner. "Planning to travel light?" Nathan asked, keeping his tone casual. Taylor didn't look up. "I figured if there's no room for me, I should be ready too. I don't know. Maybe I can stay in the car or something." "Taylor, it's okay, Dad." His son's voice was steady, but Nathan could hear the hurt underneath. "I know Grandma Gail's family doesn't really. I mean, I get it. We're not like them." Nathan sat down on the bed beside his son. "Look at me, buddy." Taylor finally met his eyes, and Nathan saw the same expression he'd worn himself 1,000 times growing up. The look of someone who'd learned not to expect too much, to make themselves smaller, to fit into spaces that weren't built for them. "You listen to me," Nathan said quietly. "You're worth 10 of them. You're brilliant. You're kind. And you've got more integrity in your little finger than that whole family combined. Don't ever let anyone make you feel like you're not enough. But we don't have the money they have, Dad. We don't have the house or the cars, or money isn't the same as worth." Nathan put his arm around his son's shoulders. "I learned that the hard way. And I'll be damned if I let them teach you otherwise." After Taylor went to bed, Nathan sat in his home office staring at his phone. He'd sworn he'd never make this call, never cash in this particular chip. Pride had kept him silent for 15 years, had made him refuse every offer of help, every extended hand. But this wasn't about him anymore. He pulled up a contact he hadn't used in over a decade, and typed out a message. "Byron, it's Nathan Forbes. I know it's been a long time, but I need to ask you for something. Can we talk?" The response came less than a minute later. "Nathan, my God, man. I've been trying to reach you for years. Call me anytime, day or night." Nathan glanced at the clock. 11:47 p.m. He made the call. Byron Odom answered on the first ring. "Nathan Forbes, the man who disappeared into the suburbs. I thought you'd forgotten about your old college roommate. I've been busy, Byron. Too busy for the guy who lived on ramen noodles with you in that shoebox apartment at MIT." Byron's voice was warm without judgment. "I read about your consulting firm. Impressive work. You always were the smartest person in any room." Nathan had met Byron during their freshman year at MIT. They'd been assigned as roommates in the overcrowded dorms. Nathan on a full scholarship. Byron the heir to a shipping fortune worth billions. They should have had nothing in common. Instead, they'd become brothers. Byron had seen Nathan at his lowest, working 3 jobs while maintaining a perfect GPA, eating dollar store pasta for weeks at a time, studying while exhausted enough to fall asleep over his textbooks. And Byron had never once made Nathan feel less than equal. When Byron's family hosted charity galas, he'd invite Nathan. When Byron got a new car, he'd offer Nathan the keys to his old one without making it feel like charity. Nathan had always refused. Pride maybe, Or fear that accepting help would prove what the Greers had always implied, that he needed their world more than they needed him. After graduation, Byron had taken over his family's empire, expanding it into technology and renewable energy. His name appeared in Forbes and Fortune. He moved in circles where CEOs and senators were casual acquaintances. Nathan had deliberately pulled away, building his life without those connections. Now he was breaking 15 years of silence to ask for help. "I need to ask you for something," Nathan said. "For my son," he explained the situation, the family reunion, the forgotten accommodation, Taylor's tears. He kept his voice level factual. But Byron had always been able to read between his words. "Those people did this deliberately," Byron said, his voice hard. "Yeah. And you've been dealing with this kind of treatment for how long?" 15 years. A long silence. Then Byron laughed, not with humor, but with the kind of dark amusement that came from recognizing an opportunity. "Nathan, do you know what I've been doing for the past decade while you've been ignoring my calls? Building your empire, among other things, but I've also been waiting for you to finally ask me for help with something, anything." Byron's tone shifted, became businesslike. "Here's what's going to happen. You and Taylor are going to Martha's Vineyard as planned. I want you to show up at that family gathering. Let them see Taylor's face when he realizes there's nowhere for him to stay. Let them twist the knife." "Byron, trust me, how dramatic do you want this?" Nathan thought about Taylor's expression as he packed that small duffel bag. Thought about 15 years of subtle humiliation, of watching his wife apologize for his existence, of seeing his son learn to make himself invisible. "Very," Nathan said, "perfect. I'll handle everything. Just play along and keep your phone on. Tomorrow's going to be interesting." They talked for another hour. Byron catching up on the years they'd missed. Nathan finally dropping the walls he'd built. By the time they hung up, Nathan felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Anticipation. The next morning, the Forbes family loaded their car for the drive to Cape Cod. Taylor was quiet, his duffel bag at his feet, his expression resigned. Molly chatted nervously about the beach, about the activities they could do on their own, trying to paint optimism over the disaster they were driving toward. They caught the ferry to Martha's Vineyard in the afternoon, the sun bright on the water. Taylor stood at the railing, watching the mainland recede, and Nathan stood beside him. "It's going to be okay, buddy," Nathan said. Taylor nodded but didn't answer. The Greer family had taken over a section of Edgerton, 3 massive estates along the waterfront, each property worth millions. When Nathan pulled up to the designated meeting point, the first thing he saw was the sheer scale of wealth on display. Luxury vehicles lined the circular driveway. Family members gathered on the expansive lawn, glasses of champagne in hand, children running between them. Gail Greer stood at the center of it all, holding court. She was a tall woman in her late 60s, elegant in white linen, her silver hair perfectly styled. Everything about her radiated old money and older attitudes. She spotted Nathan's car, a reliable but unimpressive sedan, and her smile tightened. Keith Greer, Molly's brother, stood beside his mother wearing khakis and a polo shirt that probably cost more than Nathan's monthly car payment. His wife, Bethany Hudson Greer, looked like she'd stepped out of a country club catalog. Molly got out first, immediately enveloped by her sister, Kendra Shaw, and a gaggle of cousins. Nathan helped Taylor with their bags, aware of the eyes on them, the subtle assessments. "Nathan, Molly, you made it." Gail swept forward, kissing Molly on both cheeks before turning to Nathan with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "And Taylor, darling, you've grown." "Hi, Grandma Gail," Taylor said quietly. Come. Let me show you to your cottage. It's charming." "Really?" "Very private." Gail gestured toward a path that led away from the main estates. "The rest of the family is settled in the main houses. We've had such fun getting organized. The children are already asking about the beach." Nathan felt Taylor stiffen beside him. Molly was already walking with her mother, and Nathan caught the moment she asked, "Mom, what about Taylor's room?" "Oh." Gail's hand flew to her throat in a performance of surprise that wouldn't have fooled the child. "Oh dear, Molly. Darling, I thought you understood. The properties have strict occupancy limits. We did the booking months ago and well, it simply didn't work out. I'm sure Taylor can find somewhere comfortable. Perhaps one of the hotels in town." Molly stopped walking. "Mom, I called every hotel within 20 meters. Everything's booked." "Oh my, how unfortunate." Gail's tone suggested she found it more inconvenient than unfortunate. "Well, perhaps Taylor could share a room with one of his cousins." Heath appeared at his mother's elbow, drink in hand. "Actually, the kids are already settled and pretty packed in. It would be tight to add another." "He's your nephew," Nathan said, his voice carefully controlled. Heath shrugged. Look, Nathan, I get it. Bad planning all around, but we can't just kick people out of rooms. Maybe Taylor can camp. Some of the older cousins were talking about setting up tents on the beach. Could be fun. Nathan felt Taylor's hand grip his arm. When he looked down, his son's eyes were wet, his jaw clenched against tears. It's fine, Taylor whispered. Dad, it's fine. We can just go home. And there it was, the moment that crystallized everything. His 14-year-old son, surrounded by 66 family members in luxury estates, being told he should be grateful for the option to sleep in a tent. Being taught that his place in this family was conditional, lesser, disposable. Nathan looked at Molly, who stood frozen between her family and her son, her face pale. He looked at Gail, whose expression showed performative concern, but no actual remorse. He looked at Heath, smirking behind his drink. Then Nathan pulled out his phone and made a show of checking the time. You know what? I think I'll make a call. See if I can't find us something better than a tent. Heath snorted. Good luck with that. Everything's booked, man. We've been planning this for a year. Nathan smiled and walked a few steps away, pressing Byron's number. His old friend answered immediately. Right on schedule, Byron said. Are they being as awful as you described? Worse. Perfect. Give me 45 minutes. Nathan returned to where Taylor stood, his son's shoulders hunched with humiliation. He put his arm around the boy and spoke loudly enough for the nearby family members to hear. Change of plans, buddy. I just called an old friend. Nathan, Molly started, but he held up a hand. We're going to see another option. One I should have considered from the start. Gail's expression shifted to confusion. Another option? Darling, I really don't think you'll find anything available. We'll see. Nathan checked his watch. Should be here soon. The next 40 minutes were excruciating. The Greer family continued their reunion around them. Children playing on the lawn, adults circulating with drinks and appetizers. Nathan and Taylor stood apart, waiting while Molly hovered between her family and them, clearly torn. Kendra Shah approached. Her husband Leandro Gaines beside her. Nathan. Molly says there's a problem with accommodations. I'm sure we can figure something out. Maybe Taylor could take a sofa. In which house? Nathan asked. Kendra glanced at her husband, who shrugged. Our place is pretty full. The kids have their cousins staying with them, right? Nathan didn't elaborate. Then he heard it, the distant thrum of helicopter blades. The sound grew louder, and conversations on the lawn began to falter. People looked up, shading their eyes against the sun. The helicopter appeared over the tree line, a sleek black machine that spoke of serious money, and it descended toward the open lawn with practiced precision. What on earth? Gail began. The helicopter touched down 50 yards away, grass whipping in the rotor wash. Nathan felt Taylor's hand grip his arm again, but this time it wasn't in distress. It was in wonder. A man in a pilot's uniform stepped out, approached Nathan, and extended his hand. Mr. Forbes? Mr. ODM sent me. We're ready when you are. Nathan shook his hand. Give us 5 minutes to grab our bags. The lawn had gone completely silent. 66 Greers stood frozen, watching as Nathan and Taylor walked back to their car and retrieved their luggage. Molly hurried after them. Nathan, what is this? What's happening? Byron Odom is an old friend, Nathan said calmly, loading bags into the helicopter. We were roommates at MIT. He heard about our accommodation problem and offered us his place. Molly's eyes widened. Byron Odom? The Byron Odom? Nathan smiled. Is there more than one? Keith had approached, his swagger gone. Wait, you know Byron ODM? The shipping heir, the guy who just bought that tech company for $3 billion. We go way back, Nathan said. He turned to Taylor. Ready, buddy? Taylor's tears were gone, replaced by something like awe. Really? We're really doing this? We're really doing this. Nathan helped his son into the helicopter, then turned back to the assembled Greers. Gil had gone pale. He looked like he'd been punched. The extended family was pulling out phones, trying to process what they were witnessing. Molly, you coming? Nathan asked his wife. She looked at her mother, then at Nathan, and something in her expression shifted. She'd spent 15 years making excuses for her family, trying to bridge two worlds. But standing there watching them offer her son a tent while they toasted champagne in their estates, something broke. Yes, she said firmly. I'm coming. She climbed into the helicopter beside Taylor. Nathan followed, settling into the seat and pulling on the offered headset. Through the window, he could see Gail's mouth moving. Could see her reaching for her phone. The pilot lifted off smoothly and Nathan watched the Greer family reunion shrink below them. He saw Heath running for his car, saw other family members pulling out phones, saw Gail gesturing frantically. "Where are we going?" Taylor asked through the headset, his eyes wide. "You'll see," Nathan replied, squeezing his son's hand. The flight took 20 minutes, carrying them north along the coast. Below, the Massachusetts shoreline stretched out in a patchwork of beaches and estates. Then the pilot banked toward a peninsula and Nathan saw it. A property that made the Greer family's rented estates look like beach cottages. The main house was a sprawling modern masterpiece. All glass and stone, positioned on a private point with 360 degrees of ocean views. There were guest houses, a tennis court, an infinity pool that seemed to merge with the Atlantic, and a private dock where a yacht was moored. The helicopter landed on a dedicated helipad near the main house. Byron Odom was waiting for them, looking exactly like the man Nathan remembered, but polished by 15 years of success. He wore casual linen like it was tailored, which it probably was, and his smile was genuine. "Nathan Forbes," Byron pulled Nathan into a hug. 15 years and you still won't accept help without a crisis forcing your hand." "I'm working on it," Nathan said. Byron turned to Taylor. "And you must be the young man who's been denied basic hospitality by people who should know better." "I'm Byron." Taylor shook his hand, still processing everything. "Thank you for this, sir." "Byron is fine, and don't thank me. Your dad saved my academic career at MIT more times than I can count." Byron looked at Molly. "Mrs. Forbes, I've heard a lot about you over the years." "All good things, I hope," Molly said weakly. "Only the truth. Come on, let me show you around." The estate was extraordinary. The main house alone had 12 bedrooms, each with en-suite bathrooms and ocean views. Byron led them through rooms filled with art and elegant furniture, explained the amenities: a private chef, staff on call, access to the yacht, jet skis, a stocked library, a home theater. "This place belonged to my grandfather," Byron explained. "He bought it in the 60s. I've updated it, but the bones are the same. I don't use it as much as I should. Too busy with work. You're welcome to stay as long as you'd like." Taylor couldn't stop staring at everything. This is incredible. I'm glad you like it." Byron winked at Nathan. "Your dad and I spent 4 years eating ramen and studying until 3 a.m. We always said if we ever made it, we'd remember what mattered. He kept his word. I'm still working on it." They settled into rooms in the main house. "Not the guest quarters," Byron insisted, "but the primary suites." Nathan's room had a balcony overlooking the ocean. Taylor's room had a telescope positioned to view the stars and the water. That evening, Byron's chef prepared dinner: fresh lobster, local vegetables, homemade bread. They ate on the terrace as the sun set over the water, and Nathan watched Taylor laugh at Byron's stories about their MIT days. "Your dad once spent 72 hours straight solving a theoretical problem that our professor said was impossible," Byron said. "Didn't sleep, barely ate. When he finally solved it, the professor accused him of cheating because no one could do that alone." "What did you do?" Taylor asked his father. "I showed my work," Nathan said. "All 70 pages of it." Byron raised his glass. "Your dad is the most brilliant person I've ever known, and I've known a lot of smart people." Molly was quiet through dinner, and Nathan could see her processing everything, not just the estate, but the revelation of his past, the connections he'd never mentioned. After Taylor went to explore the library, she cornered Nathan on the terrace. "Why didn't you ever tell me about Byron?" she asked. "About any of this?" "Because it wasn't mine to claim," Nathan said. "Byron's success is his. I built what I have on my own." "But you could have, Nathan. My family has been treating you like you're beneath them for 15 years. One mention of knowing Byron Odom would have shut them up." "Would it have? Or would they just have seen me as someone who relied on his connections instead of his own work?" Nathan turned to face her. "Mole, I don't care what your family thinks of me. I never have, but I care what they do to Taylor. And tonight, they crossed the line." Molly's phone buzzed for the 20th time. She glanced at it and winced. "My mother has called 47 times. "You should answer," Nathan said. "Put her on speaker." Molly hesitated, then took the call. Gail Greer's voice came through high and strained. "Molly? Molly? Where are you? We've been trying to reach you for hours." "We're at Byron's estate," Molly said. "Byron's? You mean Byron Odm's estate? The one that was just on the news?" Nathan leaned closer to the phone. "What was on the news, Gail?" There was a sharp intake of breath. "Nathan, we didn't realize you knew Mr. Odom. If we had known. If you had known I had powerful friends, you would have treated my son better." Nathan's voice was soft, dangerous. "That's your defense?" "No. No, of course not. It was a misunderstanding about the accommodations. These properties have strict rules. About occupancy limits. Yes, I heard that explanation. Interesting how those limits applied to everyone except the 66 other family members. Silence then. Nathan, this is ridiculous. You're being dramatic. We would have figured something out. You figured out champagne and catered appetizers. You figured out yacht excursions. You figured out how to make a 14-year-old boy feel like he didn't matter. Nathan's voice remained steady, controlled. But you know what? I figured something out, too. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm done. Taylor and I are going to spend the week here enjoying Byron's hospitality. You and your family can enjoy your reunion. But what about our activities? The family dinners? The gala? Nathan almost laughed. You wanted us at the gala? The one you didn't book accommodations for Taylor to attend? Nathan, please. He hung up. Molly stared at him. That was brutal. It was necessary. Nathan looked at his wife. Really looked at her. Mole, I need you to understand something. I have never cared about impressing your family. Never. But I do care about protecting our son from learning that his worth is determined by other people's narrow, shallow measurements. I know you're right. I know you're right. Molly's voice broke. They're my family, Nathan. I keep thinking if I just try harder, if I can just make them see what? That we're good enough. That we deserve basic respect. Nathan took her hands. You can't make people value what they've decided is beneath them. And I'm tired of watching you try. The next morning, Nathan woke to find Byron on the terrace, coffee in hand, reading something on his tablet. He looked up when Nathan joined him. Your mother-in-law called my office 6 times yesterday. Byron said, my assistant is very confused. Sorry about that. Don't be. I'm enjoying this immensely. Byron handed Nathan coffee. I looked into the Greers last night. Old Boston money descended from shipping merchants, family trust worth about 40 million spread across various relatives. They sit on charity boards and country club committees. Very respectable and they're about to have a very bad day. Byron's smile was sharp. I made some calls. Turns out 3 of the estates they're renting. I know the owners. They're friends of friends. I had interesting conversations about deposit terms and cancellation clauses. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Byron, relax. I'm not kicking them out. I'm just making sure certain people know who they've been treating poorly. Byron leaned back. Also, the country club they're planning to visit. I'm on the board. So is my cousin. We're having lunch there tomorrow. I thought you and Taylor might join us. That's not necessary. Nathan, you spent 15 years refusing my help because you're proud and stubborn. Now you finally let me in. Don't make me waste this opportunity. Byron's expression softened. These people hurt your kid. Let me have a little fun with them. Taylor emerged then, still in pajamas, looking like he'd slept better than he had in weeks. Is that a yacht? He asked, staring at the dock. It is, Byron said. Want to take it out today? We could go whale watching. We're sailing. Or just cruise around and eat lobster rolls. Taylor looked at Nathan, who nodded. Whatever you want, buddy. Can we go whale watching? Really whale watching? Not like the tourist boats. Byron grinned. Already planned. We leave in an hour. They spent the day on the water, just the 4 of them and Byron's captain. The yacht was absurd. A 60-footer with multiple decks, a full galley, and more technology than Nathan's consulting firm. But Taylor didn't care about the luxury. He cared about the humpback whale they spotted breaching half a mile from the boat. About the pilot whale pod that swam alongside them. About the marine biologist Byron had hired to come along and answer Taylor's endless questions. Nathan watched his son lean over the railing, binoculars pressed to his face, and felt something loosen in his chest. This was what Taylor deserved, not tents and sofas and afterthought accommodations, but this joy, this belonging. That evening, Byron's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and laughed. It's Garrison Ashworth. He owns one of the estates your in-laws rented. Don't answer on my account, Nathan said. Byron answered anyway, putting it on speaker. Garrison, how's the island, Byron? I need to ask you something. Garrison Ashworth's voice was cultured. Careful. I have a family, the Greers, renting my property this week. They're claiming to be close friends of yours. Never heard of them. That's what I thought. They've been calling my property manager, asking for special accommodations, dropping your name. When I heard Nathan Forbes was staying at your estate, I wanted to verify. Nathan's my best friend from MIT. The Greers are his in-laws, and they've been treating him like garbage for 15 years. They forgot to book accommodations for his 14-year-old son at this family reunion. A long pause. They what? Forgot. Can you imagine? 67 family members in luxury rentals, and they forgot one child. That's unconscionable, isn't it? Byron's voice was pleasant, but Nathan heard the steel underneath. Nathan's too polite to make a fuss. Me? I'm making a fuss. They talked for a few more minutes. Byron catching up with his friend. Nathan listening in growing disbelief. When Byron hung up, he looked satisfied. Garrison's going to have a conversation with the Greers about their behavior. Very polite, very civil, but he's going to make it clear that their rental is contingent on them maintaining certain standards. Byron, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Byron's expression was serious now. Nathan, you were there for me when I had nothing to prove except my brain. You never cared about my family's money. You never asked me for anything, even when you were working 3 jobs and barely sleeping. You treated me like an equal when most people saw a checkbook. You were my friend. Exactly. And now I'm returning the favor. Byron stood. These people need to learn that who you know and what you've built matters more than what you inherited. It's a lesson I learned from you. The next day, Byron insisted they attend lunch at the Island Country Club. Nathan tried to refuse, but Molly, who'd been quiet since the phone call with her mother, convinced him. Let me do this, she said. Let me show them whose side I'm on. The country club was exactly what Nathan expected. White tablecloths, hushed conversations, walls lined with photos of past presidents and championship winners. Byron greeted the maître by name and led them to a table on the terrace overlooking the golf course. They'd been seated for 10 minutes when Gail Greer arrived with Heath and Kendra along with several cousins and their spouses. They'd clearly heard Byron was dining at the club and had come to what? Apologize network. Nathan wasn't sure. Gail approached their table, her smile brittle. Byron Odom, what a pleasure to finally meet you. I'm Gail Greer, Molly's mother. Byron stood politely, but didn't extend his hand. Mrs. Greer, I understand there was a misunderstanding about accommodations. If we'd known Nathan had such distinguished connections. That's exactly the problem, Byron interrupted, his voice cutting. You should have treated Nathan and Taylor with respect because they're family, not because you thought they might know someone important. Gil's smile faltered. Heath tried to step forward. Mr. Odom, I think there's been some miscommunication. Has there? Byron's eyes were cold. Because from what I understand, you had accommodations for 66 family members, but somehow forgot a 14-year-old boy. That seems pretty clear to me. The properties had occupancy limits, Keith started. Please don't insult my intelligence. You had 3 estates with flexible room assignments. You simply chose not to make space for Taylor. Byron glanced at Taylor, who sat quietly beside Nathan, watching. How does that make you feel, Taylor? Knowing your extended family chose champagne and catered meals over ensuring you had a bed. Taylor swallowed hard, but met Byron's gaze. It hurt, but Dad says people who measure your worth by their convenience aren't worth impressing. Your dad's a smart man. Byron turned back to Gail. Mrs. Greer, I've made some calls since we met. Did you know Nathan turned down multiple 6-figure job offers after MIT to build his own consulting firm? He could have taken the easy path, used connections, played the corporate game. Instead, he built something from nothing. That takes character. We've always respected Nathan's work. Gail began. Have you? Because I've heard 15 years of stories that suggest otherwise. Subtle digs, pointed questions, comments about their modest lifestyle. Byron's voice stayed level, but Nathan could see the anger underneath. Nathan Forbes is worth 10 of the people in this club. And if you can't see that, you don't deserve him and your family. The entire terrace had gone quiet. Conversations had stopped. Heads had turned. Gilunk greater than S face was white. Heath looked like he wanted to disappear. Kendra Shaw tried a different approach, addressing Molly. Sis, this is getting out of hand. We're family. We should be able to work this out. Molly looked at her sister for a long moment. You're right. We're family, which is why you should have made sure my son had somewhere to sleep before you worried about champagne selections. Molly, no. Molly's voice was firm, and Nathan saw his wife clearly for the first time in years. I've spent 15 years making excuses for you. For Mom, for all of you. I told myself you didn't mean it. That Nathan was too sensitive, that I just needed to try harder to make everyone get along. But you hurt my son. You made him feel worthless. And I'm done pretending that's acceptable. Gail reached for her daughter. Molly, darling, please. We're going to finish our lunch now. Molly said, you can go back to your reunion. The Greers left, their exit watched by the entire club. Nathan reached under the table and took Molly's hand. She squeezed back, her eyes wet, but her expression determined. Byron raised his wine glass. To family. The kind you choose, not the kind you're stuck with. They clinkied glasses and Nathan saw Taylor smile for the first time in days. A real smile, unguarded and bright. The next 2 days passed in a blur of activity. Byron seemed determined to show Taylor everything the island had to offer. They went deep-sea fishing, visited the Marine Biological Laboratory, took the yacht out for sunset cruises. Nathan found himself relaxing in ways he hadn't in years, watching his son come alive with curiosity and excitement, but he also knew the reckoning wasn't over. Byron had been making calls, quiet conversations with friends and business associates. Nathan didn't ask for details, but he noticed the way Byron would smile after certain conversations, the way he'd tap his tablet with satisfaction. On the 4th day, Molly's phone rang with an unfamiliar number. She answered hesitantly and Nathan watched her face change as she listened. Yes, I understand. No, we haven't. Yes, of course. Thank you for letting me know. She hung up and looked at Nathan with wide eyes. That was the rental company managing one of the estates. They're asking Mom's family to vacate early due to contractual violations. What kind of violations? Nathan asked, though he suspected he knew. Something about misrepresenting their connections and making inappropriate demands of the property management. Molly looked at Byron, who was studiously examining his coffee. Did you? I made a few phone calls, Byron said mildly. Mentioned that the Greers had been using my name without permission. Suggested that their behavior toward Nathan and Taylor might reflect poorly on any property owner who continued to host them. The owners reached their own conclusions. Byron. That's Molly stopped, then surprised Nathan by laughing. That's exactly what they deserve. The full scope of Byron's intervention became clear over the next day. The country club where the Greers had planned their gala dinner called to say there had been scheduling conflicts. The yacht company canceled their booked excursion due to maintenance issues. The golf reservations vanished. The restaurant reservations disappeared. One by one, the carefully planned activities of the Greer family reunion fell apart. Gail called Molly in a panic. Everything's being cancelled. The gala, the yacht, the golf. I don't understand what's happening. It's called consequences, Mom, Molly said, her voice calm. You humiliated a 14-year-old boy because you thought his father wasn't important enough to matter. Turns out he matters to people who actually have influence. This is ridiculous. We've spent thousands of dollars and we've spent 15 years being treated like second-class members of this family. Molly looked at Nathan as she spoke. I should have stood up to you years ago. Should have protected Nathan from your comments and your condescension. But I was afraid of losing you, losing the family. You're not losing us. We're here, are you? Because from where I'm standing, you only care now that you realize Nathan has connections. You didn't care when he was just a smart, hard-working man who loved your daughter and grandson. Molly's voice broke. You taught me to value the wrong things, Mom. And I'm done with that lesson. She hung up. That evening, Nathan found Molly on the terrace watching the sunset. He sat beside her, not speaking, just being present. I'm sorry, Molly said finally, for all of it. For not defending you, for making excuses, for letting them treat us that way. You were caught in the middle, Nathan said. I never blamed you. You should have. She turned to him, tears on her face. You've been protecting me for 15 years, Nathan. Protecting me from seeing what my family really was. Never complaining, never making it my problem. And I let you, Mole. No, let me say this. She took his hands. You're the best man I know. You built a life, a career, a family, all on your own strength. You never needed my family's approval and you never pretended to. I'm the one who kept trying to force two worlds together that were never going to fit. What are you saying? I'm saying I choose you. I choose Taylor. I choose the life we've built. She smiled through her tears. And if my family can't respect that, if they can't see what I see when I look at you, then they're not my family anymore. Not in the ways that matter. Nathan pulled her close, feeling the weight of 15 years shift and settle into something new. I love you, Mole. I love you, too, and I'm going to spend the rest of our lives proving it. On the 6th day of what should have been the Greer family reunion, Nathan received a call from an unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but Byron, who was teaching Taylor to sail, nodded toward the phone. Take it, Byron mouthed. Nathan answered, Hello, Mr. Forbes. This is Lawrence Greer, Molly's father. Nathan had met Larry Greer exactly twice in 15 years. Once at the wedding, once when Taylor was born. The man was a ghost in his own family, overshadowed by his wife's personality and preferences. Mr. Greer. Larry is fine. I'm calling to apologize for my wife, for my children, for myself. His voice was heavy with something that sounded like shame. I've been watching this family tear itself apart this week and I realized something. We've been wrong about you, about what matters. Okay, Nathan said, not willing to give more than that. Gail comes from a world where appearances and connections mean everything. I thought marrying into that world would make me someone better. Instead, I became someone smaller. Larry cleared his throat. You're everything I should have been. Self-made, principled, present for your son, and we've spent 15 years trying to make you feel lesser because it was easier than examining our own failures. Nathan didn't respond, waiting. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect you to accept this apology, but I wanted you to know that at least one member of this family sees you clearly, sees what we've lost by not appreciating what we had. Larry paused. Taylor is a remarkable boy. He gets that from you. And if Molly has the sense, I hope she does. She'll hold on to you with everything she has. She does, Nathan said quietly. And I'm holding on to her, too. Good. That's good, Larry hesitated. For what it's worth, I'm having words with my wife and children. There will be changes. I can't promise there'll be enough, but there'll be something. After they hung up, Nathan stood on the terrace processing the conversation. Byron joined him, handing him a beer. Deathbed conversion? Byron asked. Something like that. Molly's father apologized. And how do you feel about that? Nathan thought about it. One apology doesn't erase 15 years, but it's a start. Maybe you're more forgiving than I'd be. Byron said, I'm not forgiving. I'm just tired of carrying anger. Nathan looked at his friend. Thank you for all of this. For giving Taylor a week he'll never forget. For showing Molly's family that their metrics don't define worth. Thank you for finally letting me help. Byron clinked his beer against Nathan's. And for the record, I'm not done. Your consulting firm. You're doing good work, but you're limiting yourself. Why? Because I don't want to owe anyone. What if you're not owing? What if we're partnering? Byron's eyes gleamed with the same look he'd had at MIT when he was working through a complex problem. I've been looking into sustainable technology solutions. Your expertise in adaptive systems would be perfect for some projects. I'm developing real work, Nathan. Not charity, not connections, a genuine partnership. Nathan felt the old instinct to refuse to maintain independence. But he thought about Taylor on the yacht, about Molly finally standing up to her family, about 15 years of pride that had accomplished what exactly? Tell me more, he said. They talked late into the night, Byron laying out projects that would challenge Nathan's skills. Nathan pushing back with questions and refinements. It felt like MIT again. Two minds working in tandem, building something neither could create alone. The next morning, their last full day at the estate, Byron gathered them all for breakfast on the terrace. I have a proposition, Byron announced. This estate sits empty most of the year. I'm here maybe 2 weeks annually. It seems like a waste. It's an incredible property, Molly said. It is, which is why I want you to use it whenever you want. Summers, weekends, holidays. Byron looked at Taylor. Especially you, kid. You should be able to study marine biology in an environment that feeds that interest. Byron, we can't. Nathan started. You can and you will. This isn't charity, Nathan. It's friendship. It's what friends do. Byron leaned forward. You gave me something at MIT that I'd never had before. Someone who saw me as just Byron, not as my family's heir. Someone who valued my mind over my money. That was priceless. Let me return the favor. Taylor looked at his father with pleading eyes. Nathan felt the last walls of his pride crumble. Okay, he said. Thank you. Good. Now, I have one more surprise. Byron stood. Follow me. He led them down to the dock where a smaller boat was moored. Not the yacht, but a beautiful 30-foot sailboat perfectly maintained. This was my grandfather's, Byron said. He taught me to sail on this boat. I want Taylor to have it. Byron. Nathan couldn't find words. I'm serious. It's too small for me to use regularly, but it's perfect for learning. Taylor showed real aptitude yesterday, and it'll give him a reason to keep visiting. Byron put his hand on Taylor's shoulder. If your dad says yes. Taylor's eyes were wide. Dad. Nathan looked at his son at the hope and excitement on his face and realized that sometimes accepting generosity wasn't weakness. Sometimes it was wisdom. Yes, Nathan said. Yes, we accept. Taylor threw his arms around Byron. Then Nathan, his joy impossible to contain. Molly was crying and Nathan pulled her close. The four of them standing on the dock as morning sun sparkled on the water. On their last evening, Byron insisted on a proper dinner. The full formal dining room, his chef preparing a multi-course meal, candles and wine in celebration. They dressed up. Taylor borrowing one of Byron's old blazers. Molly wearing a dress she'd packed for the Greer family gala she'd never attend. Over dessert, Byron raised his glass. To Nathan Forbes, the man who taught me that wealth without character is just numbers in an account. And to Taylor, who reminds me why it matters to stay grounded. And to Molly, who had the courage to choose her own family over her family's expectations. They toasted, the crystal ringing in the candlelight. Nathan's phone buzzed with a text. He glanced at it and smiled. Molly, your mother wants to know if we'll attend the final family dinner tomorrow night. She says she has something important to say. Do you want to go? Molly asked. Nathan thought about it. He thought about 15 years of subtle warfare, about Taylor packing a small duffel bag, about the moment his son had been told to be grateful for a tent. He thought about Byron's friendship, about Molly's tears on the terrace, about Larry Greer's phone call. Yeah, he said finally. Let's go. But we go together and we go as equals. No more apologizing for who we are. Molly smiled. Together as equals. The next evening, they returned to the Greer family estates for the final dinner. The atmosphere was markedly different from their arrival. The champagne was gone, replaced by beer and simple wine. The catered meals had become potluck dishes. The planned gala had morphed into a casual cookout on the beach. The family gathered as Nathan, Molly, and Taylor arrived. This time in a car Byron had lent them, a Mercedes that made a quiet statement. Nathan saw the looks, the whispers, the way people watched them cross the lawn. Gail Greer stood at the center, but she wasn't holding court. She looked diminished, tired, and when she saw Nathan, something in her expression crumbled. Nathan, Molly, Taylor. She approached them slowly. Thank you for coming. The entire family had gathered, 66 people forming a loose circle. Nathan realized this wasn't going to be a private conversation. I owe you an apology, Gail said, her voice carrying across the lawn. I owe all of you an apology. What we did, what I orchestrated was cruel. It was beneath the standards I've always claimed to uphold, and it's cost us dearly. Heath stepped forward, his swagger completely gone. I was a dick. There's no other word for it. I let myself think that because I made money, I was worth more than people who made less. That's garbage thinking, and I'm sorry. Kendra spoke next. We got caught up in keeping up with each other, in maintaining appearances. We forgot what family actually means. One by one, family members spoke, some sincerely, others clearly uncomfortable, but trying. Nathan listened, his arm around Taylor, feeling his son lean into him. Finally, Larry Greer spoke. I've been a coward. I let my wife run this family's values into the ground because it was easier than standing up for what I knew was right. Nathan, you've been more of a man in your silence than I've been in 30 years of marriage. I'm sorry. The apologies hung in the air. Nathan felt Molly squeeze his hand, felt Taylor watching him, waiting to see what he would do. I accept your apologies, Nathan said finally. But accepting them doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean everything goes back to how it was. He looked at each family member in turn. Taylor is 14 years old. He's smart. He's kind. And he deserves to grow up knowing his worth isn't determined by how much money his father makes or what connections he has. If this family can respect that, can respect him, then we can move forward. But if not, we're done. We can, Gail said quietly. We will. And one more thing, Nathan's voice hardened. Molly is done being caught in the middle. Done making excuses for you. Done apologizing for me. She's my wife. She's Taylor's mother, and she's her own person. You'll treat her as all three with respect. Understood. Understood. Multiple voices echoed. The dinner that followed was awkward but genuine. People asked Taylor about his interests, listened to him talk about marine biology without condescension. Heath made an effort to talk to Nathan about his consulting work without comparing it to his own career. Kendra apologized to Molly privately for years of passive-aggressive comments. It wasn't perfect. It wouldn't erase 15 years, but it was something. As the evening wounded down, Nathan found himself standing at the edge of the beach with Larry Greer, watching the sunset. My wife has spent 30 years building a family on foundation of sand, Larry said. Money, connections, appearances. It took watching it crumble in a week to realize what we'd lost along the way. What did you lose? Nathan asked. Authenticity, joy, the ability to value people for who they are rather than what they represent. Larry looked at Nathan. You never lost that. Even when we tried to grind it out of you, you held on. That takes strength I don't have. You found it this week. Maybe. Or maybe I just finally got tired of being small. Larry extended his hand. I hope you'll give us a chance to do better. Not for my sake, but for Molly's, for Taylor's. Nathan shook his hand. One day at a time. They drove back to Byron's estate that night. The three of them quiet in the car. Taylor fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from the emotional weight of the week. Molly reached over and took Nathan's hand. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For being exactly who you are. For never compromising. For showing me what matters." She squeezed his fingers. "And for loving me even when I didn't deserve it. You always deserved it, Mole. You just needed to believe it yourself." The next morning, they packed to leave. Byron met them on the terrace for coffee. His eyes tired but satisfied. "So," Byron said, "think you'll come back?" "Try to keep us away," Nathan said. "Taylor's already planning his sailing schedule." "Good." And Nathan Byron set down his coffee. "That partnership I mentioned, I'm serious about it. I've already had my lawyers draw up preliminary terms. Equal partnership, shared decision-making, your expertise, my resources, building something that actually matters." Nathan felt the last vestiges of his old resistance fade. "Send me the documents. Let's do this." Byron grinned. "Welcome back to the world, Nathan Forbes." They flew back on Byron's helicopter, watching Martha's Vineyard receded below them. Nathan saw the three Greer estates, saw the family members packing up their cars, preparing to return to their lives. He wondered if any of them would actually change or if this week would fade into family mythology. Another story to tell at future gatherings. But it didn't matter because he'd changed. Molly had changed. Taylor had learned a lesson about worth and dignity that would serve him for life. As Boston appeared on the horizon, Taylor leaned forward in his seat. "Dad," he said through the headset. "Can we really use the sailboat whenever we want?" "That's what Byron said. And we can go back to the estate. Anytime." Taylor was quiet for a moment. "Then I'm glad everything happened the way it did. I mean, I wish Grandma Gail hadn't been mean. But if she hadn't, I wouldn't have gotten to spend a week with Byron. Wouldn't have learned to sail. Wouldn't have seen you stand up to them." Nathan turned to look at his son. "You would have been fine sleeping in a tent, wouldn't you? You would have made the best of it." "Maybe, but I'm glad I didn't have to." Taylor smiled, and it was the same open, genuine smile Nathan had seen on the yacht. "I'm glad you called Byron. I'm glad you have friends who see how awesome you are. You're pretty awesome yourself, buddy." They landed at a private airfield outside Boston where their car was waiting. Byron had insisted on having it driven there. One final gesture of the week. As Nathan loaded their bags, Byron pulled him aside. "That family of yours is going to try to change." Byron said, "Some of them might even succeed. But Nathan, don't let them take advantage of your forgiveness. Don't let them think this week means everything's forgotten." "I won't. But I also can't spend the rest of my life fighting them. For Molly's sake, for Taylor's sake, I have to give them a chance to do better." "Fair enough. Just remember, you don't owe them anything. You already gave them 15 years of patience. If they blow this chance, that's on them." Nathan hugged his friend. "Thank you for everything. That's what brothers do," Byron said. "Now go home, build your life, and call me more than once every 15 years. The drive home was peaceful. Molly dozed in the passenger seat. Taylor read his marine biology book in the back. And Nathan thought about the week that had just ended. Thought about his son's tears, about the helicopter landing, about standing in that country club and watching Byron dismantle the Greer's pretensions with simple truth. He thought about partnership offers and summer sailing and the weight of pride. He'd finally sat down. When they pulled into their driveway, their modest, comfortable, perfectly adequate house, Taylor jumped out and ran to the door, calling out that he wanted to video chat with Byron about sailing techniques. Molly stayed in the car with Nathan for a moment. "Are we going to be okay?" she asked. "With my family? With everything?" "We're going to be better than okay," Nathan said. "Because we're not defined by them anymore. We're not trying to fit into their world or prove anything to them. We're just us, and that's enough. That's more than enough." Molly leaned over and kissed him. "I love you, Nathan Forbes. Thank you for not giving up on me." "Never," he said. Inside, Nathan's phone buzzed with an email. The partnership documents from Byron's lawyers, comprehensive and generous, but also an email from Larry Greer with the subject line, "Moving Forward." Nathan opened it. "Nathan, I wanted to follow up on our conversation. I've had long talks with Gail and with our children. We're making changes, real ones, not just performative gestures for show. Heath is taking a sabbatical from work to reconsider his priorities. Kendra is in therapy dealing with her own issues around worth and validation. Gail as well, Gail is trying. I know you have no reason to believe this is real, but I wanted you to know that Taylor has an education fund waiting for him. Not from the family trust, from me personally. Money I've been setting aside for years because I knew Gail would never approve. It's his regardless of what happens between our families. Because he deserves it and because you shouldn't have to carry that burden alone. We lost 15 years being blind to what mattered. I don't expect to get them back, but I hope we can build something new, something better, Larry. Nathan read the email twice, then showed it to Molly. She cried and Nathan held her, understanding that some wounds took time to heal, that some bridges could be rebuilt even after burning. That night, after Taylor went to bed, Nathan stood in his home office looking at the consulting projects on his desk, the partnership documents from Byron, the email from Larry. He thought about the version of himself who'd refused help, who'd built everything alone, who'd taken pride in needing nothing from anyone. That man had been strong, but he'd also been alone. This new version, the one who accepted friendship, who let people see him clearly, who stood up not just for himself, but for his son, who'd finally let his wife choose sides without guilt. This version was stronger. Molly appeared in the doorway, coming to bed. Yeah, just thinking about how sometimes winning doesn't look like what you expected. Sometimes it's not about crushing your enemies or proving everyone wrong. Sometimes it's just about standing firm in who you are until the world adjusts around you. Molly smiled. Very philosophical. Also very you. That's what Taylor said, that I'm awesome. He's right. You are. She held out her hand. Come on, awesome man. Tomorrow you have a partnership to negotiate and a son who wants to plan 17 sailing trips. Nathan took her hand and followed her out of the office, turning off the light behind him. In the darkness, his phone lit up with one more message from Byron. Already missing you guys. Next summer at the estate, we'll make it annual tradition. Also, I have some ideas for projects that could really change things. Call me tomorrow. Nathan smiled and typed back, absolutely. And Byron, thanks for teaching me that letting people help isn't weakness. It's wisdom. The response came immediately. You taught me that first, Nathan. I'm just finally returning the favor. Nathan put his phone away and went to bed beside his wife in his modest house with his brilliant son asleep down the hall in a future that suddenly seemed brighter than any helicopter ride or ocean view estate. Because in the end, the Greers had tried to measure him by their metrics and found him lacking. But Byron, Taylor, and Molly, the people who actually mattered, measured him by the only metric that counted: character, integrity, love. And by that measure, Nathan Forbes was wealthy beyond imagination.